council chamber floated in space like a crystal flower, its petals made of transparent metal that reflected the light of 100 nearby stars. Inside, representatives from 43 different species gathered around a circular platform. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had shells or glowing energy fields for skin. They came from every corner of the galaxy, united under one banner, the Galactic Confederation. Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the platform, feeling very small and very alone. He was human, from Earth, and he had traveled 3 light years to be here. His black suit looked plain compared to the elaborate forms around him. Some aliens wore armor that shimmered. Others had bodies that were armor. A few didn't wear anything at all because their skin was harder than steel. Chen carried a data chip in his hand. It contained everything humanity wanted to share: art, music, scientific discoveries, mathematical proofs, the history of human civilization, the good and the bad. He had prepared for this moment for 2 years. The floor recognizes the human representative, a voice echoed through the chamber. It came from everywhere and nowhere, translated instantly into Chen's language by technology he barely understood. "Thank you, honored counselors," Chen said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Humanity requests full membership in the Galactic Confederation. We have achieved faster-than-light communication. We have decoded your basic language protocols. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." He uploaded the data chip into the central system. Holographic images filled the air above the platform: the Mona Lisa, the Great Wall of China, the International Space Station, symphony orchestras, particle accelerators, children laughing in schoolyards. The images cycled through humanity's greatest achievements. For a moment there was silence. Then, a sound like clicking metal filled the room. It was laughter. Alien laughter. Senior Counselor Jothik stepped forward. He was Vrakesh, an insectoid species that looked like a praying mantis the size of a bear. His 4 eyes glittered with amusement. His mandibles clicked together as he spoke. "Chemical rockets," Jothik said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You still use chemical rockets to escape your gravity well. Your fastest ships cannot even reach your neighboring planets in less than a year. You have one world, human. One single world. And you have barely left it." Other counselors made sounds of agreement. A crystalline being called a luminary chimed like bells. "They are very young," the luminary said, not unkindly. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Chen felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "We have only had spaceflight for 1 century. We have only had radio for 2. Given time—" "Time is not the issue," interrupted a Tethian, an aquatic creature floating in a water-filled suit. Her voice was soft but firm. "The issue is temperament. We have observed your broadcasts, human. Your species is violent. You fight each other over resources, over ideas, over imaginary lines on your planet's surface. You have weapons that could destroy your own world. How can we trust you among the stars?" Chen took a deep breath. This was the hardest part. The part he had known was coming. "Yes, we have fought. Yes, we have wars in our past. But we have also made peace. We have united our world under one government. We have eliminated nuclear weapons. We have learned from our mistakes." "Your mistakes?" Jothik's laugh was harsher now. "You killed millions of your own kind in conflicts. You poisoned your own air and water in pursuit of industry. You are Category 3 on the civilization scale, human, barely sentient by our standards. Come back when you have colonized your solar system. Come back when you have learned to live without violence. Come back in a few thousand years." The vote was called. It was swift and brutal. 41 species voted to deny membership. 2 abstained. None voted in favor. "Humanity is granted observer status," the central voice announced. "You may watch council proceedings. You may not vote. You may not participate in trade agreements. You may not access Confederation technology or star charts beyond your immediate region. This decision is final." Chen stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of 6 billion people on his shoulders. 6 billion people who had hoped, who had dreamed of joining something greater than themselves. 6 billion people who had just been told they weren't good enough. But Chen had not survived decades of diplomatic service without learning control. He straightened his shoulders. He looked directly at Jathik, then slowly scanned the room, meeting as many eyes as the aliens had. "I understand," Chen said quietly, "and I accept your decision. But I will leave you with one thought, honored counselors. Throughout human history, we have always performed best when underestimated. We will return. And when we do, I hope you will remember this moment." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. The journey home took 3 days through the FTL communication relay. Chen didn't sleep. He watched Earth grow larger in the view screen, that beautiful blue marble hanging in the void. Home. Rejected. Dismissed. Mocked. When he landed in Geneva, the UN Secretary General was waiting. The woman's face was tight with controlled anger. "The whole world watched," she said. "They heard everything. How bad is it?" "As bad as it could be," Chen replied. "They think we're children playing with fire, dangerous children." Within hours, protests erupted across Earth. Some people wanted to try again, to be more peaceful, more patient. Others wanted to withdraw completely, to tell the galaxy to leave humanity alone. And others, a growing number of others, wanted something different. "We should show them," a young programmer in Mumbai posted online. "We should prove we're not weak. They need us more than we need them," an engineer in São Paulo wrote. "Let them ignore us. We'll build something they can't ignore." Humanity first became a rallying cry in some places, not because we hate aliens but because we believe in ourselves. The UN Security Council met in emergency session. Military leaders, scientists, philosophers, and diplomats filled the room. The question before them was simple. What now? General Marcus Reeves, head of UN Strategic Defense, stood at the podium. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady hands. "We have 3 options," he said. "We can wait and hope they change their minds. We can isolate ourselves and develop alone, or we can make them change their minds." "How?" someone asked. Reeves smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "We show them what Category 3 means. We show them what humans can do when we're motivated. We show them that chemical rockets were just the beginning." In the back of the room, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo sat quietly, her mind already racing. She was chief engineer for the UN Science Division, specializing in experimental propulsion. She had an idea, a crazy idea, something that had been dismissed as impossible. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to try the impossible. The vote was called. It was unanimous. Project Olympus was born. 5 years passed like a held breath. The world had changed in those 5 years, though most aliens watching from distant stars didn't notice. Earth's cities still glowed at night. Ships still crossed the oceans. Planes still filled the skies. To casual observers, humanity appeared to be going about its ordinary business, nursing its wounded pride in quiet obscurity. They couldn't have been more wrong. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stood in a command center that didn't exist on any public map. Around her, 300 of humanity's brightest minds worked at stations filled with screens showing calculations that would have seemed like magic a decade ago. The room hummed with energy, literal energy, drawing power from a fusion reactor buried even deeper underground. "Status report," Sarah said, her voice calm despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Barrel integrity at 98%, called out an engineer. "Magnetic coil alignment perfect. Cooling systems optimal. We're ready for final testing phase." Sarah nodded, looking at the massive display on the main wall. It showed a schematic of something that shouldn't exist. A railgun 500 kilometers long, buried through Earth's crust like a spear aimed at the heavens. Project Olympus. Humanity's middle finger to the galaxy. Ready was a word they'd been afraid to use for months now. Ready meant they were done building. Ready meant it was time to show the galaxy what humans could do. General Marcus Reeves entered the command center, his boots clicking on the metal floor. He moved like a man who carried the weight of the world, which wasn't far from the truth. "Dr. Okonkwo," he said, "the Security Council wants a demonstration within 3 months. Can we deliver?" Sarah turned to face him. She was a tall woman from Nigeria, her hair cut short for practical reasons. Her eyes sharp with intelligence that had earned her 3 doctorate degrees before age 30. "We can deliver," she said. "But we need to decide what we're delivering, General. A weapon demonstration or something more?" This was the question that had haunted them for months. The railgun could fire a projectile at 30% of light speed. The kinetic energy was staggering, equivalent to multiple nuclear weapons. They could target an asteroid, blow it into dust, and prove to the galaxy that Earth had teeth. But Sarah wanted more than fear. She wanted respect. "I have a proposal," she said, pulling up a new display. "The Shroud of Malice," Reeves frowned. "The rogue black hole?" "Exactly." Sarah's fingers flew across the controls, showing trajectory calculations. "It's been drifting toward the inhabited systems in the Tethian sector for 200 years. The Galactic Confederation has been trying to divert it for just as long. They've failed. Every attempt to alter its course has been insufficient. In 90 years it will pass close enough to 3 inhabited worlds to cause gravitational catastrophe. And you think we can move it?" Reeves sounded skeptical. "Not move it. Nudge it." Sarah zoomed in on the calculations. A 500-ton projectile, tungsten core wrapped in depleted uranium, encased in an exotic matter shell we developed from their own public physics papers. We fire it into the black hole's accretion disk at 0.3 light speed. The kinetic transfer won't destroy the hole, but it will alter its trajectory by 0.8 degrees. That's enough to make it miss all inhabited worlds by a safe margin. Reeves was silent for a long moment, studying the numbers. "This is insane," he said finally. "The precision required is within our capabilities," Sarah interrupted. "Barely, but within them. We account for gravitational lensing, relativistic effects, the rotation of the accretion disk, stellar drift over 3 months travel time. Our AI has run the simulation 10 million times. Success rate 73%. And if we miss, we look foolish, but not dangerous. That's the genius of it, General. If we blow up an asteroid, we look like warmongers. If we try to help and fail, we look ambitious but peaceful. And if we succeed," Darcy smiled, "we solve a problem that has stumped the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy." Reeves pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. "You want to embarrass them?" "I want to show them what Category 3 means," Sarah corrected. "I want them to understand that youth and inexperience can be assets, not liabilities." "We think differently. We approach problems from angles they've never considered. While they were building bigger ships and more sophisticated computers, we were building a gun that shoots through planets." The General laughed, a sharp bark of sound. "A gun that shoots through planets. God help us all." But he was nodding. "I'll take it to the Security Council." "But Sarah, if this works, everything changes. Are we ready for that?" "We'd better be," she replied. The Security Council approved the plan within 24 hours. The next morning, construction crews across the globe went into overdrive. What the aliens didn't know, what their intelligence networks had somehow missed, was that Project Olympus wasn't one railgun. It was an entire infrastructure. On the moon, mining operations had been running for 4 years under the guise of scientific research. They'd extracted millions of tons of refined metals. Earth's 3 space elevators, dismissed by alien observers as inefficient cargo transport, had been shuttling material and equipment into orbit constantly. The energy signature of the fusion reactors powering the railgun had been masked as experimental power generation. The galaxy had been watching, but they hadn't been seeing. Now teams worked around the clock. The barrel was already complete, a magnetic marvel that could accelerate a projectile smoothly from 0 to 90,000 kilometers per second. The targeting systems were calibrated using every astronomical database humanity could access. The projectile itself was a work of art, engineered to survive forces that would vaporize ordinary matter. Sarah barely slept. She lived in the command center, reviewing calculations, running simulations, checking and double-checking every variable. The margin for error was microscopic. They would get one shot, one chance to prove themselves. 3 months before launch, alien monitoring stations detected unusual electromagnetic emissions from Earth. A Vrakesh intelligence report crossed Counselor Jathik's desk. It noted, anomalous energy signatures consistent with large-scale industrial activity, purpose unknown. Jathik barely glanced at it. Probably having another energy crisis, he muttered to an aide. These Category 3 civilizations always struggle with power management. 2 months before launch, a luminary science vessel passing through Earth's system detected gravitational anomalies. There are unusual mass distributions beneath the surface, the ship's captain reported. Mining operations, came the response from Confederation Science Division. They're depleting their own world's resources. Typical. 1 month before launch, Sarah stood in the barrel chamber looking at the massive projectile resting in its cradle. It gleamed under the work lights, 500 tons of carefully crafted destruction, waiting to become a tool of salvation. Beautiful, isn't it? Said a voice beside her. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, her chief of propulsion physics, stood with his hands in his pockets. We built something that will echo across the galaxy. Or blow up spectacularly, Sarah said, but she was smiling. Yuki, are we crazy? Completely, he agreed cheerfully. But the best humans usually are. We're the species that looked at the sky and decided to fly. We saw the moon and decided to walk on it. We're the ones who split atoms and mapped genomes. Crazy is what we do. Sarah laughed despite her nerves. Then let's be crazy one more time. The launch date was set. Invitations were sent to every member of the Galactic Confederation. Humanity invites you to observe our latest scientific achievement, the message read. We hope it will demonstrate our commitment to galactic peace and progress. Most ignored it. A few accepted out of curiosity or boredom. What could humans possibly show them that would be interesting? They were about to find out. Launch day arrived with clear skies over Nevada, though what was about to happen would occur far beneath the desert sand. The command center was packed. Every screen showed different data, trajectory calculations, energy readings, magnetic field strength, cooling system status, and a dozen other variables that all had to be perfect. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo sat in the command chair, her hands steady on the controls despite her racing heart. Around her, the best engineers and scientists humanity had ever produced waited in tense silence. In orbit, every satellite Earth possessed had been repositioned to observe and record. On the ground, seismic sensors dotted the planet. This event would be measured, analyzed, and remembered for as long as humanity existed. General Reeves stood beside Sarah's chair. All stations report ready, he said quietly. It's your show, Doctor. Sarah took a deep breath. Across the galaxy, a handful of alien observers had tuned into Earth's broadcast feed. Most were bored junior officers assigned to monitor the primitive humans. A few were scientists curious about what humans considered an achievement. They expected a rocket launch, maybe something slightly more advanced than usual. This is Project Olympus Control, Sarah said, her voice broadcast to the world and the watching aliens. We are go for launch in T-minus 60 seconds. All personnel final systems check. The countdown began. Sarah watched the numbers tick down, each second carrying the weight of 5 years of work, billions of dollars, and humanity's reputation. 30 seconds. The magnetic coils powered up, their hum vibrating through the bedrock. 20 seconds. The projectile began to hover in the barrel, held perfectly in place by magnetic fields. 10 seconds. Every human on Earth who knew about Project Olympus held their breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Sarah pressed the button. For 8.7 seconds, something impossible happened. The projectile accelerated down the 500-kilometer barrel, magnetic coils firing in precise sequence. The forces involved were staggering. The tungsten-depleted uranium core, wrapped in its exotic matter shell, was pushed harder and faster than any object humanity had ever created. 0 to 90,000 kilometers per second, 0 to 30% of light speed. The energy release was catastrophic in its beauty. On the surface, the desert lit up as if a new sun had been born beneath the sand. The electromagnetic pulse hit like a hammer, knocking out communications across half of North America. The shockwave followed, a ripple in the Earth itself that registered on seismic sensors worldwide. Windows shattered in Las Vegas, 200 kilometers away. Car alarms blared in Phoenix. And from the exit point in low Earth orbit, the projectile emerged. It streaked into space like a bullet fired by an angry god, trailing ionized particles that glowed bright enough to see from the ground. Satellites captured the moment in perfect clarity. a 500-ton projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed, its trajectory perfectly calculated, heading toward a target 3 months away. The energy readings went out across the galaxy through FTL sensors, and in that moment every alien who had dismissed humanity suddenly sat up and paid attention. On the Vrakesh military station orbiting their homeworld, alarms screamed. A junior analyst stared at his screen in disbelief. Energy release equivalent to... No, that can't be right. Recalibrate sensors. Sensors are fine, his superior snapped, mandibles clicking in agitation. That reading is correct. The humans just released more energy than our entire battle fleet could generate. In the luminary crystal gardens, scientists stopped their meditations. Impossible, one chimed. Category 3 civilizations do not have access to that kind of power generation. The calculations don't allow for it. Then the calculations are wrong. Another replied, their crystalline body pulsing with confused light. Or the humans are not Category 3. On the Tethian water world, military analysts pulled up every scan they had of Earth's system. We missed something, the Admiral said, her voice tight with concern. Run everything again. I want to know what else we missed. Emergency sessions were called. The Galactic Confederation's military council convened within hours. Councillor Jathik, who had mocked the humans 5 years ago, stood before a holographic display showing the projectile's trajectory and energy signature. This is a weapon, he said flatly. Make no mistake. The humans have built a planet-based weapon system capable of relativistic strikes. One shot from that device could devastate a fleet, destroy a space station, or crack a moon. Could they fire it again? Someone asked. Unknown, but we must assume they can. This changes everything. Jathik's 4 eyes glittered with something between fear and respect. I recommend we prepare a military response. If the humans have one of these weapons, they are too dangerous to leave unchecked. But before the council could vote, Ambassador Chen Wei's broadcast reached them. His message was simple, calm, and broadcast on every frequency the Confederation monitored. To the honored members of the Galactic Confederation, Chen said, standing in the UN Assembly Hall with Earth visible through windows behind him. What you just witnessed was Project Olympus, humanity's contribution to galactic security. The projectile currently traveling through space is not aimed at any inhabited world, any space station, or any vessel. It is aimed at the Shroud of Malice. Silence filled the council chamber. The Shroud of Malice, the rogue black hole that had been an unsolvable problem for 2 centuries. Our scientists have calculated a solution, Chen continued. In 3 months, our projectile will impact the black hole's accretion disk. The kinetic transfer will alter its trajectory by 0.8 degrees, enough to ensure it misses all inhabited systems in its path. We do this not as a threat, but as a demonstration of our desire to contribute to the Confederation. We do this because it is right. We do this because we can. He paused, letting his words sink in. The galaxy called us Category 3, too primitive, too violent, too young. Perhaps we are all of those things, but we are also determined, creative, and willing to attempt what others consider impossible. In 3 months, you will see whether we succeed or fail. We invite you to watch, we invite you to learn, and we invite you to reconsider what primitive means. The broadcast ended. Chen's face faded from screens across the galaxy, leaving millions of aliens staring at empty space. The Luminary Science Council immediately began calculations. Within hours, they had their answer. It could work, the lead scientist announced, their voice ringing like bells. The trajectory is perfect. The energy transfer is sufficient. If the projectile hits precisely where they aimed, the shroud will indeed divert. If, Jathik repeated. And if they miss? If this is an elaborate deception? Then we will know they are ambitious fools, a Tethian representative said. But not dangerous ones. No weapon strikes 3 months in the future. This is either genuine aid or the most pointless threat in galactic history. The vote to attack Earth died before it could be officially proposed. Instead, a new motion passed, watchful waiting. The galaxy would observe the projectile's journey. They would see if humanity could do what no Confederation species had managed. The Zorathian Combine, always thinking of profit, immediately sent trade proposals to Earth. Regardless of outcome, your engineering is impressive, their message read. We wish to discuss licensing agreements. On Earth, Sarah Okonkwo watched the alien responses flood in with a mixture of satisfaction and terror. They'd done it. They'd forced the galaxy to notice humanity. But now came the hard part. They had to make the shot. 3 months. 90 days for the projectile to cross the void. 90 days for humanity to hold its breath and hope that every calculation was perfect. Every variable accounted for. Every assumption correct. 90 days to prove that humans belonged among the stars. Sarah looked at her team, saw the exhaustion and pride on their faces. "Well," she said with a tired smile, "I guess we wait. And pray," General Reeves added. "And pray," Sarah agreed, though she put her faith in mathematics and physics more than divine intervention. The projectile raced through space, invisible to the naked eye, carrying humanity's hopes and the galaxy's attention. Behind it, Earth prepared for whatever came next. Defense satellites were deployed. Evacuation plans were updated. Diplomatic channels opened. The galaxy was watching. And for better or worse, Earth had made itself impossible to ignore. The galaxy held its breath for 3 months, though different species held it for different reasons. The projectile moved through space at 90,000 kilometers per second. Too fast to intercept even if someone wanted to. Alien observatories tracked it obsessively, measuring its trajectory down to the millimeter. Every species with FTL sensors watched, calculated, and debated what humanity's gamble meant for the future. On Earth, life continued, but with an edge of tension that never quite faded. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo barely left the command center. She monitored the projectile's path constantly, comparing actual data to her predictions. So far, everything matched perfectly. The projectile flew true, aimed like an arrow at a target 3 months away. "Stop worrying," Dr. Yuki Tanaka told her on day 30. "The hard part is done. The projectile is in flight. We can't change anything now." "That's exactly why I'm worrying," Sarah replied, staring at screens full of trajectory data. "If we made a mistake, we won't know until impact, and then it will be too late." But it wasn't the math that kept her awake at night. It was the politics. Across the galaxy, reactions varied wildly. The peaceful Tethians sent messages of cautious support. "Your attempt to help is noted," their ambassador wrote. "We hope you succeed." The mercantile Zarathians were already drawing up trade contracts, betting on human success. "We wish to purchase 10 of your railguns," they proposed. "Name your price." The Luminari, those crystalline scientists, were fascinated. They sent research teams to Earth's solar system, asking permission to study Project Olympus. "Your approach to the problem is unique," they explained. "We have been using precision and finesse. You used raw power. We wish to understand this philosophy." But the Verkesh, those insectoid warriors who had mocked humanity 5 years ago, responded with hostility. Military vessels gathered at their border stations. Councillor Jathik made speeches in the Confederation Council chambers, his mandibles clicking with anger. "The humans have violated every protocol," he declared. "They built a weapon of mass destruction without oversight. They fired it without permission. They threatened the stability of the entire galaxy. This cannot stand. They aimed at a black hole, not at us," a Tethian countered. "Today a black hole. Tomorrow, who knows?" Jathik's 4 eyes gleamed. "We must respond before it's too late." The debate raged for weeks. Some species saw humanity's action as helpful. Others saw it as dangerous. A few, the clever ones, saw it as both. On day 45, halfway through the waiting period, the Verkesh made their move. A battle fleet of 30 warships entered Earth's solar system, weapons charged, shields up. They positioned themselves between Earth and its moon, a clear military statement. General Marcus Reeves stood in the UN Strategic Command, watching the alien fleet on his displays. "Well," he said calmly, though his jaw was tight, "we knew this might happen." "They're hailing us," a communications officer reported. "Audio only." "Put them through." Councillor Jathik's voice filled the command center, translated into English by their computers. "Humans of Earth, your actions have been deemed a threat to galactic security. You will immediately provide us with complete technical specifications of your weapon system. You will cease all operations related to Project Olympus. You will submit to Confederation oversight of your military development. You have 12 hours to comply." Silence followed. Every eye in the command center turned to General Reeves. He looked at Ambassador Chen Wei, who had rushed to the facility when the fleet arrived. Chen looked at Sarah Okonkwo, still surrounded by screens showing the projectile's path, and Sarah looked at the trajectory data, perfect and true. "We're 3 days from impact," she said quietly. 3 days from knowing if we succeed. They want to make us back down before we succeed, Chen said. If we do, we prove them right. We prove we're dangerous and unpredictable. And if we don't? Reeves asked. They have 30 warships. We have some satellites with missiles and a railgun that takes days to recharge. We have Earth, Chen replied, and 6 billion people who are tired of being told they're not good enough. Reeves nodded slowly. He'd been a soldier for 40 years. He knew how to calculate odds. He also knew that sometimes you had to call a bluff. Open a channel, he said. The communications officer looked nervous but obeyed. Channel open, sir. Counselor Jathic, Reeves said, his voice carrying the weight of command. We respectfully decline your demands. Project Olympus is not a weapon of aggression. It is a tool of assistance. In 3 days, you will see proof of this. We ask that you wait, watch, and learn. You dare refuse? Jathic's voice was sharp with disbelief. We have 30 warships. You have 1 planet. Yes, Reeves agreed. We have 1 planet. But, Counselor, before you fire on us, I suggest you calculate how many shots from our weapon system we could get off while your fleet destroys our orbital installations. The answer is at least 2, maybe 3, each one with enough kinetic energy to crack a moon. Ask yourself, which of your ships would you sacrifice? Because we will be choosing targets and we will not miss. The channel went silent. Sarah felt her heart hammering. They were bluffing, sort of. The railgun could fire again, but it needed time to recharge, time to load another projectile. They couldn't rapid fire, but the Vrakesh didn't know that. And the threat of even one more relativistic projectile was enough to give any military commander pause. You are insane, Jathic finally said. We're human, Chen interjected. You called us violent. You called us primitive. You said we were too dangerous to join the Confederation. But you never asked why we're dangerous, Counselor. We're dangerous because we don't give up. We're dangerous because we attempt impossible things. And we're dangerous because when someone tells us we can't do something, we do it anyway. 3 days, Reeves added. Wait 3 days. If we succeed, you'll witness humanity solving a problem that's plagued the galaxy for 2 centuries. If we fail, you can say we're fools and impose whatever restrictions you want. But if you fire on us now, you'll never know if we could have saved those Tethian worlds from the Shroud. Can you live with that, Counselor? Minutes passed. Long, terrible minutes where everyone in the command center barely breathed. The Vrakesh fleet held its position, weapons charged but not firing. Sarah imagined she could feel the calculations happening on those ships, military minds weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, Jathic spoke again. 3 days. We will wait 3 days. But make no mistake, humans. When your projectile misses its target, when you have proven yourselves to be dangerous fools, we will return. And next time there will be no negotiations. The channel closed. The Vrakesh fleet remained in position, a constant reminder of the threat hanging over Earth, but they didn't fire. They didn't advance. They waited. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Now we really have to make this shot, she said. No pressure, Yuki joked weakly, but the pressure was immense. The next 3 days were the longest of Sarah's life. She triple-checked every calculation. She ran simulations until her eyes blurred. She looked for any error, any mistake, any variable they might have missed. The math stayed perfect. The trajectory held true. On paper, everything worked, but paper wasn't reality. On day 89, 1 day before impact, the entire Galactic Confederation seemed to be watching. FTL communication networks were jammed with traffic as species shared theories, bets, and opinions. The Luminari had positioned observation ships near the Shroud of Malice, their sensors ready to capture every detail. On Earth, Sarah stood in the command center surrounded by her team. General Reeves was there. Ambassador Chen was there. Even some government leaders had arrived wanting to witness history firsthand. Tomorrow, Sarah said to no one in particular, tomorrow we find out if 5 years of work was genius or madness. I vote genius, Yuki said, trying to lighten the mood. The galaxy is watching, Chen said quietly. Whatever happens tomorrow, humanity has made itself known. We forced them to see us. That alone is a victory. I'd prefer a victory that doesn't end with the Vrakesh blowing up our cities, Reeves muttered. Sarah smiled despite her nerves. Then let's make sure our math is right. That night, very few people on Earth slept well. Everyone knew that tomorrow would change everything. Success meant respect, membership in the Confederation and a future among the stars. Failure meant isolation, military oversight, and the confirmation of every doubt the aliens had about humanity. The sun rose on day 90. Impact would occur at 14:37 Universal Time. Sarah was in her chair 3 hours early, watching the final approach data stream in. The projectile was exactly where it should be, moving at exactly the right speed, aimed at exactly the right point in the black hole's accretion disk. In orbit, the Vrakesh fleet watched. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens watched, and on Earth, 6 billion humans held their breath and prayed to whatever gods they believed in. The countdown began. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the armrests of her chair. This was it. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. 10 minutes to impact, Yuki announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. She'd done everything she could. The math was perfect. The engineering was sound. Now it was up to physics, that impartial judge that cared nothing for hopes or dreams. 5 minutes, some of the 500-ton projectile struck the accretion disk of the Shroud of Malice at precisely 14:37 Universal Time. Traveling at 30% of light speed, for a moment that stretched across space and time, nothing seemed to happen. Then physics took over and the universe did what mathematics predicted it would do. The kinetic energy transfer was spectacular. The projectile hit superheated plasma spinning around the black hole at relativistic speeds. The collision created a shockwave that rippled through the accretion disk like a stone thrown into water. Matter compressed, heated, and exploded outward in a brilliant display of radiation that lit up sensors across the galaxy. The luminary observation ships, positioned at a safe distance, captured everything. Their sensors recorded the energy release, the momentum transfer, the subtle but definite change in the black hole's trajectory. Data streamed across FTL networks at the speed of thought, reaching every corner of the Confederation simultaneously. In the command center beneath Nevada, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stared at the numbers scrolling across her screen. Her hands trembled. Her breath caught in her throat. For 5 seconds that felt like 5 years she couldn't speak. Then Dr. Yuki Tanaka broke the silence. Trajectory shift confirmed, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. 0.83 degrees. We exceeded the target by 0.03 degrees. The Shroud will miss all inhabited systems by a margin of safety. The command center erupted. People who had been silent and tense for 3 months suddenly shouted, cried, hugged each other. Years of work, years of doubt, years of pressure released in a single moment of pure joy. Sarah felt tears running down her face and didn't care. They'd done it. Against all odds, humanity had moved a black hole. General Marcus Reeves stood beside her chair, his face showing more emotion than Sarah had ever seen from the stoic military man. You did it, he said quietly. You magnificent genius, you actually did it. We did it, Sarah corrected, looking at her team. Every single person here. We did something the galaxy said was impossible. Ambassador Chen Wei, watching from the UN building in New York, smiled as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The alien responses were coming fast, faster than their translators could keep up, but the tone was universal. Shock, awe, and the beginning of respect. In the Galactic Confederation Council chambers, silence reigned for a full minute after the impact. Councillor Jathic stood frozen, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the trajectory calculations. The numbers were undeniable. Humanity had succeeded where the Confederation had failed for 200 years. Impossible, he whispered. But the word had lost its meaning. Humans had just proven that impossible was merely inconvenient. A Tethian representative broke the silence. They did it on their first attempt. First attempt. Her voice carried wonder and disbelief in equal measure. We've been trying for 2 centuries with our best scientists, our most advanced technology, and they solved it in 5 years with chemical rockets and determination. Not chemical rockets, a luminary scientist corrected, their crystalline body pulsing with excited light. Magnetic acceleration, kinetic energy weapons adapted for peaceful purposes. And the mathematics? The luminary paused, almost reverent. The precision required to account for gravitational lensing, relativistic effects, 3-month drift calculations, all on the first shot with no room for error. This is not primitive technology. This is elegant, brutal, and brilliant. It's a weapon, Jathik said, but his voice had lost its conviction. They built a planet-based weapon system capable of saving 3 worlds, interrupted a Zarathian trader. Let's be honest about what just happened. The humans looked at a problem we couldn't solve, built something we didn't think Category 3 civilizations could build, and solved it perfectly. We can argue about the implications, but we cannot deny the results. Emergency session was called. For the first time in Confederation history, every single member species sent their highest representative. This was too important to delegate. The question before them was simple but profound. What do we do about humanity? The debate lasted 6 hours. Species that had ignored Earth now demanded trade agreements. Military powers that had seen humans as weak reassessed their strategic calculations. Scientific communities begged for access to Project Olympus data. And through it all, one fact remained clear. Humanity could no longer be dismissed. Finally, the vote was called. The motion was straightforward. Grant Earth full membership in the Galactic Confederation with Category 2 civilization status, skipping Category 4 entirely. The vote was unanimous. Even Jathik voted in favor, though his mandibles clicked with bitter acknowledgement. In Earth's orbit, the Vrakesh fleet commander received new orders. He read them twice, unable to believe what he was seeing. Then, with great reluctance, he opened a channel to Earth. General Reeves, Jathik's voice came through, stripped of its earlier arrogance. On behalf of the Vrakesh military and the Galactic Confederation, I formally apologize for our aggressive posture. Our fleet is withdrawing immediately, and I am instructed to inform you that humanity has been granted full Confederation membership. Effective immediately, your observer status is revoked. You are now equals. The last word seemed to pain him, but he said it anyway. Reeves smiled, a sharp expression that showed teeth. Apology accepted, Counselor. We look forward to working with the Confederation as equals. The Vrakesh fleet began to withdraw, and Earth erupted in celebration. Cities across the planet lit up with fireworks, parades, and parties that would last for days. Humanity had done more than join the Confederation. They'd forced the galaxy to recognize them as peers. But in the command center, Sarah wasn't celebrating yet. She pulled up schematics on her private screen, designs that had been kept secret even from most of the project team. General Reeves noticed and moved closer. What's that? He asked quietly. Sarah glanced at him, then at the schematics. Olympus Station 2, 3, 4, and 5, she said. Counselor Jathik was right to be worried. What we built isn't just a tool. It's a weapon. A terrible, powerful weapon. And the galaxy needs to know we have more. Deterrence, Reeves said, understanding immediately. Insurance, Sarah corrected. Today we saved 3 worlds. Tomorrow we need to make sure no one tries to conquer ours. The galaxy respects us now, but respect backed by power lasts longer than respect alone. How long until the other stations are operational? 2 years for Station 2. 5 years for all 5. Sarah closed the schematics. But the galaxy doesn't need to know that. As far as they're concerned, we could fire again tomorrow. Reeves nodded slowly. You're a devious woman, Dr. Okonkwo. I'm a human woman, she replied. We don't survive by being nice. We survive by being smart, determined, and just scary enough that people think twice before testing us. 3 days later, Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the full Galactic Confederation for the second time. The council chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. Species that had ignored him before now listened intently. Counselor Jathik sat in his usual position, but his posture was different, less arrogant, more cautious. Honored counselors, Chen began. 5 years ago I stood here and asked for membership. I was denied. You said we were too primitive, too violent, too young. Today I return not to ask, but to accept your invitation. Humanity joins the Galactic Confederation not as supplicants, but as partners. He paused, letting his words carry weight. But I want to be clear about something. The projectile that moved the shroud was fired from Olympus Station 1. We have begun construction on Olympus Stations 2 through 5. These stations will serve as both tools for galactic emergencies and deterrence against aggression. We share this information in the spirit of transparency. Murmurs filled the chamber. Chen continued, his voice steady. Humanity offers our technology, our creativity, and our determination to the Confederation. We will share what we've learned. We will trade fairly. We will contribute to galactic peace. But we will also maintain our ability to defend ourselves and our interests. We hope this is understood." Jathik stood up. The chamber went silent. Everyone waited to see what the Vrakesh counselor would say. "Ambassador Chen," Jathik began, his mandibles clicking slowly. "5 years ago I mocked your species. I called you primitive. I called your rockets backward. I was wrong." The admission seemed to cost him, but he continued. "Humanity has proven something we had forgotten. That innovation comes from necessity, that power can emerge from unexpected places, and that youth and inexperience can be strengths rather than weaknesses. The Vrakesh welcome humanity to the Confederation. We look forward to learning from you." He sat down and Chen nodded in acknowledgement. It wasn't friendship, but it was respect, and respect was enough. The formal acceptance ceremony lasted hours, with speeches from dozens of species, trade agreements drafted on the fly, and diplomatic protocols established. By the end, Earth had gone from an isolated backwater to a recognized power in galactic politics. When it was over, Chen stepped outside the council chamber and looked out at